Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema. Sit down. If you couldn't tell, I am not in my natural habitat. I am not home. I have a buddy flying into Newark International Airport in Jersey, so I spun down to my parents' house and then pieced together like, oh, if I'm crashing here, I still need to watch What If at 3 because I have to pick him up to like 6:30. So I was like, if I'm crashing, I guess I got to do the record here. So trying to figure out my setup. It's a little rough, specifically with the lighting, so I apologize for that. But it is very dark. It is very early, and I think you already know what we're getting ready to talk about because I don't have my normal, setup at home, and I forgot my flash drive, so I don't have a nice little, poster to stick into this television. So we're just going right off of the home screen from Disney Plus. You already know what I'm talking about, so let's not waste any more time. Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into Marvel Studios. What If? Episode 8, What If Ultron won? And, I tell you, I'm a little behind. I've had a little bit of a start to my week, that's for sure. And last week just kind of got away from me. I had a crazy weekend, so I haven't gotten up my Party Thor spoiler review. That'll be coming later on today before this spoiler review goes up. But in that spoiler review, I kind of mentioned that following last week's episode, What If Thor Was an Only Child, I kind of saw more people than I thought I would see, not really love the episode, which, as you all will see eventually when I put up my reactions, as I had said in my non-spoiler, though, for that one, I love the episode. I'm always down to kick back, have fun. Always down for anything that allows Chris Hemsworth to just show off his charisma and charm, and all those things were going on last week. And I do understand, though, people who didn't love it, because it didn't quite have the weight that the last few episodes before that one did. Well, if you were one of those people who didn't like the palate cleanser, very similar to Ant-Man and the Wasp before we got to Endgame, that kind of felt like the reset. Like, hey, we're about to head into the finale. It's going to take 2 episodes, I think, to tell the rest of this story. At least that's what I was thinking last week. Having watched this week's episode, that's very true. So I didn't mind having a palate cleanser. We had some heavy episodes and some episodes that had really big multiversal changes to it, right? Like the decisions that we tweaked, the weeks prior to last had really big effects, and the changes to the worlds, were a lot bigger than what the Party Thor episode was. I get that. So if you were a person who kind of fell into that, I wish it would have had some bigger changes and had been a little bit more serious, this episode's got everything you want, man. And what a freaking dope episode this was. It's a terrifying world to live in a world where Ultron won. He's scary. Now, one of the things I was wondering going into it is if we would get James Spader back, and mild spoilers, we do not. The voice talent that they used, he's in the ballpark, but much like Frigga last week, kind of took me out of it. It was a little jarring because it was unlike Frigga, who wasn't even close to Rene Russo whatsoever. This actor, and I'll look up his name for the spoiler review. Like I said, I'm out of my normal habitat. But he did a good enough job of getting into the ballpark, so it really kind of jarred me when I was like, wait, no, that's not James Spader. But by the end of the episode, the voice had totally grown on me and worked for this version of Ultron, which, as we saw last week, features, Vision being... host, the host body to Ultron, not Jarvis. And I tell you, this is scary. This is a scary dude. And what Ultron does throughout this episode is terrifying. And there is a stretch toward the back half that visually absolutely mind-blowing. Like some of the craziest animation we've seen. Very moments of some of the like the big animation pops of the episode reminded me last week of the same kind of like wow and awe I got watching Thor fight Captain Marvel. And you definitely get some wow animation moments like those fight sequences between the two of them in this one, just with things that you don't expect to be coming and like have far larger consequences to what's going on. But the visual representation of one of the places that Ultron goes to, and that stretch where he's trying to figure things out, wow, it was absolutely stellar. And like I said, from a story standpoint, he is terrifying. And what's cool is this episode didn't quite function the way I thought it would. I kind of thought we would come full circle by the end of the episode and end up with Ultron showing up on, Party Thor's universal plane. Doesn't do that kind of full circle thing, but it does pretty much fill in all the questions that we had having seen, Ultron. And we find out how he gets all of the stones, and we find out how he won in his world. And that, like I said, that world, it's a bleak outlook. And I guess spoilers from the character standpoint of other characters that pop up in this episode, inside of this Ultron apocalypse universe, we have Clint Barton and Natasha Romanoff, and they are kind of our through lines through from a hero perspective during the episode. And once again, Lake Bell does a phenomenal job. She has proven at this point that she's very talented in the voice acting realm, and she does get close enough to Nat throughout the course of the episode where, unlike some of the other ones that kind of jar you a bit, real easy to fall into like, oh yeah, that's totally Black Widow, because she has enough of that. There were some points where I was a little Poison Ivy, but for the most part, I think she found a lane where she was matching more with ScarJo than she was with her Poison Ivy performance. And then of course we have Jeremy Renner back doing Hawkeye stuff, and they got some cool things for both of them in this episode. They get some really cool moments, both visually and story wise. The AC Bradley does some cool things. I really liked how she and her team set things up in this episode to kind of give us moments where you're like, oh wow, that was really cool, I didn't think you'd see that, or oh dude, like they just did that thing. Like the moments that they gave the two of them throughout the episode, both story and animation wise, were really stellar. And the lead up into what is setting up the multiversal Avengers that we are going to get next week, is cool, and it certainly works for both characters. And the other thing that we've been talking about is Uatu, and the fact that he's kind of slowly started to become more tangible in these episodes. And we do see a little bit of a throwback to the early parts of What If, where he was really, really very much, negative space, and only pieces that weren't, so that you could kind of get the outline, kind of like this. We get a couple of those throwback images where he is more in the background while they're telling the story, because like it takes place before where we are in the current, like basically where we were with Thor and all the things that he's seen thus far. This goes back a little bit. So I liked seeing him kind of be more in the background, and I liked how he, or how they twisted, how the story turned to get him into that more tangible, physical looking form that we've been seeing from him. And we've been posturing like, is Watu getting involved? The more tangible and physical he is that going to lead to a point where he intervenes? And if he intervenes, is that point going to line up with Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Sylvie killing he who remains. Like, we've kind of been, theorizing some of that. And we don't have any of the big answers here. And I don't think that should be shocking. You'd probably want to save those for the finale. But we do get some interesting story beats inside of what Watu's story is and how it could function inside of potentially the finale. And I really, really liked everything they did with Uatu this week. And I adored Jeffrey Wright's performance. Holy cow, dude. That guy, I mean, we've been saying it all season. That dude is so good. And he is, like, perfect for Watu. And this episode, as you're, like I said, setting up the finale, it allowed Wright to go to some places, acting-wise, from Uatu that he hasn't had a chance to go to yet, and just stellar voice work, man. Like, I was just like, it's one of those things where he's like one of those actors who impresses you every time he does anything, yet you're always kind of surprised at how much he impresses you, because the bar for Jeffrey Wright is very high. He's very, very talented, especially in this realm where we're focused on his voice. Like, being perfect for Watu and the sound and the tone of the Watcher. Getting to see him go to some places that allowed him to really act. Watu's been very here. So it is kind of cool as we're kind of still in that buildup of what feels like a Watu intervening at some point. You're starting to see that, like, he now is even getting to have, like, some emotions and some changes to the way that he is talking to us and telling the story. And I just thought all that stuff was dope, and I think we are primed for something really dope next week. There's pretty much only one of the multiversal Avengers that we have seen in that spin shot that we have not seen yet. And I 100% see a through line to how you get to Gamora, but that is kind of the last piece of the story that we need. However this is all going to come together, I think next week we'll probably see maybe like a what if on Gamora, and that story will then kind of fold into whatever the finale is. Or as the multiversal Avengers forms, maybe they just pluck her. But that's really the only outstanding piece that we'd be waiting for from the images that we've seen in trailers. And I hope that we get a little bit of a Gamora story up front before we dive into the full multiversal story that I think we're about to get. Because I just, like, seeing her wield Thanos's, like, blades, like, I want to see if Gamora is the Mad Titan. Like, that would be pretty cool. But I think from what they have set up outside of the Gamora piece, we're pretty much ready to go, man, and I can't wait to see how it ends, because however it ends, I think is going to be the biggest clue into how this impacts the live action stuff. I mean, granted, we know to a degree that this show is clearly going to tie into that story, so there's obviously just that generic and general multiversal impact that the show has. But I'm pumped to see, how we could see it in something live action like, say, Doctor Strange 2 or Spider-Man. I'm just pumped for all those things. But nevertheless, I'm starting to kind of ramble and lose my way. I don't like being out of my natural habitat, man. It throws me off. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to turn it to you guys. What are you thinking? Did you watch What If this morning? If you did, no spoilers. But what did you think of the episode? Was it a good rebound from last week? And again, I'm telling you, the little knock on my head keeps making me forget to score these things. So before I toss it to you, let's get the C-Maniacs on up and let's give this bad boy a score. Ooh, man, I love this episode. I just think, as you're seeing this larger multiversal story and picture kind of take shape, diving into something that had a little bit more depth to it and a little bit more of direct attachments to that multiversal story was just really enjoyable, while also, like, in the story that they told, kind of gave you, like, a little bit of some horror concepts. There are some shots of Ultron in this that were pretty freaking terrifying. So I loved all that stuff. I thought the animation was some of the best we've seen thus far on the show, and the performances were phenomenal, with the lead standout being Jeffrey Wright getting to do some cool things with Watu. So for me, I'm going to go 4.7 out of 5. I'm going to keep this. I don't think we have surpassed that T'Challa or even Doctor Strange episode yet, but this episode is certainly just as good as those two, and I think it is teeing us up, hopefully, for an episode next week that might get you the old 5 out of 5 Sea Maniacs. We've been waiting for it. It hasn't come yet. I think next week could be the episode, but this week I think it did things very similar to those episodes. Big changes to the multiversal story, really cool animation stuff, fantastic performances, and like I said, just kind of overall what the story does and what it's setting up and what it's building to. It just kind of falls into that same realm as those two episodes. So I'm going to put it right on par with those two. 4.7 out of 5 Sea Maniacs. Now I'm done talking. Now it's your turn. If you've watched the episode, please no spoilers. Wait for the spoiler review on that one. I promise I will get it up faster than I did the Thor one. But I want to know what you're thinking, man. If you watched the episode, what popped for you? Did you think the Ultron stuff was cool? Did you think the Watu stuff was cool? Did you think the story that we got with Clint and Natasha was cool? Or were they not working? Did they hit your expectations? Did they miss your expectations? If they did, what could they have tweaked or changed? And how excited does this episode make you for next week? And if you have not watch the episode, has the Seaman enticed you? Are you pumped? Are you, in your Wednesday go-abouts, know you're watching later, popping in to see the Seaman? Does this get you excited for the finale that we are approaching next week? Anything that you guys are thinking, good, bad, indifferent, Marvel Studios, What If, Episode 8 goes down below in the comments section. I look forward to talking to all of you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman as we approach next week's finale, and just anything that's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, TV, movies, trailers, you dig what I'm doing, you want to be here for it, or you just want to show a little love and support, then come. Join Sea Maniac Nation. Super simple. All you got to do is jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the Seaman's Cinema, sit down. I've been the Seaman. I sound old. Peace.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that Sea Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.